Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man, and today we're going to do another light novel review. So today's review is going to be on Rising of the Shield Hero, Volume 1. There you go. Okay, so this book is written by Neko Usagi. It's illustrated by Seira Minami. It's published by One Piece Books. And the genres are isekai and dark fantasy. And it has an adaptation, which I think was a little controversial. Justice R. Stone and the podcast, the Light Novel Podcast, talked about it, but I listened to this a couple weeks ago, so I don't really remember exactly what was going on. So I don't know. Plus, the episode where they talked about the Shield Hero is like almost a year old, maybe? Yeah, I think so. Kind of like a year old. So this is like outdated, but I'm pretty sure it was controversial because of the topics that are in this book. Well, one specific topic, and it's only because it's like something that is related to something that in the US is rather important at the moment, or in the moment back then. But yeah, so before we start, let me explain how I'm going to review this book. So I look at 5 things. I look at plot, characterization, world building, art, and fan service. Okay. So the first 3, plot, character, and world building, are what I rate my book on. Okay. Light novel specifically. The art and the fan service are additional things I look at because I think that they affect the enjoyment of the reading experience. Some people enjoy fan service, some people don't, and the art might detract a bit from the reading experience, or it might enhance it depending on what type of expectations you had, kind of. So yeah, so the premise of this book is that this guy, who's an otaku, his name's Naofumi, gets sent to another world. He gets summoned by this other world and then given a shield, told that that's his magic weapon and that he is now one of the 4 legendary heroes and that he must save this world from being overrun by monsters. And then basically he gets framed for a crime he didn't commit, and then because of that he gets disillusioned with the world and still has to defend it anyways if he wants to return home. The plot is very good. It's rather linear, and it's divided into a 3-arc story, kind of like a regular Western novel. But it's very clear. It's interesting enough to keep you reading, and it features a lot of grinding of levels, kind of. So, the first section of the book is the summoning arc. I don't know if that's a proper name for it, but that's what I call it. It's the part where he's introduced as a character and as a person. You get a lot of his backstory, and then he goes to the library to read. He finds this book and starts reading it, and he gets like enthralled in it because he thinks it's interesting. But then it gets to a certain part, and then there's no more pages left. And then I think he falls asleep and gets summoned to the other world, transported to the other world. And then he gets there, stuff happens. And then he's told, here's your shield. And then he figures out that it's the worst one, and that the other 3 heroes have already experienced this story before through video games. But he has not, because he's not a very serious gamer. The other thing is that they're all from different Japans. So that's kind of interesting there. And that's basically it. I guess he gets framed for rape, and then no one listens to him regardless of what he tries to say. So he just gets accused, but because he's a hero, they can't really do anything to him. So essentially all they did was make his life harder than it already was. But I don't know. It wasn't, I don't know why they did it. Like, it just sounds stupid to me to like require someone to save your world and then treat them like garbage. So I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. And yeah, he hates life and everything and women because a woman was the one that made him unhappy, or he made his life difficult by that rape accusation. And then the second arc kind of picks up, and it's basically him grinding levels and realizing he can't do it alone because he can only defend. So he has to find a slave, and he's against it originally, but then he's like, well, it's the only way I'll survive, so I have to do it. And he gets a Raphtalia, the little, well, she's not little, but in the raccoon girl. And she becomes his sword. He originally hates her, and she's basically ready to die. But throughout the text, he's like, well, I have to take care of her, because if she dies, I die. And then he's nice to her because, you know, he doesn't gain anything from being mean. And so she starts to regain the desire to live because of him being nice to her. Because he's like the first person that was nice to her ever since she became a slave. Yeah, they grow close together. They start leveling up. She grows up with each level that she gains. So she's basically goes from a lolly to like a grown-up, essentially a yandere, without being psychotic, in like the span of a quarter of a book or a third of a book. And then the last section of the book is about the first wave. And basically it's just Naofumi defending this town from getting overrun by monsters, because all the other heroes are focusing on the boss, which is important, but they're basically uncaring about everyone else. But most of them still see it as a video game, so there's like some leeway there, but not really. They're just horrible people. And yeah, that's the plot. Like I said, it's really good. I like how the plot itself helps develop the characters, and the character development isn't happening just on its own, if that makes any sense. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, so let's start with with the characters section. So I think the characters here are the best part. I rather like how Naofumi is immensely unhappy and has like huge depression. Like, it's so bad that he can't even taste food anymore. Like, he eats it, but he always gets the cheapest thing because it just doesn't taste like anything to him. And he hates everyone and everything, but he's still good deep down. And so he's like not horrid. He's just like grumpy, if that. Well, he's mean, but he's mostly just neutral. And then Raphtalia is a good person, and she's kind of like at the opposite end. She's like really sad deep down, but very happy outwardly once she grows up and becomes like she starts to see Naofumi as a good person. And so they have a really good interplay, because Naofumi, in the process of having to take care of someone else, regains all the humanity and like some of the enjoyment in life that he lost, essentially, because of the rape accusation thing. He's not entirely happy at the end of the book, but he's like better off than he was originally, and that's a good character progression, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked the like short story at the end of the book where it talks about Raphtalia and where she comes from. I thought that was really interesting, and it adds a lot of layer to her character. And then they're basically the only characters that get any growth. Everyone else is just like stagnantly the same as they were at the beginning. You figure out some stuff about Mean, which is the girl that parties with Naofumi at the beginning and that accuses him of rape, which shows you why it was so easy for it to occur, but doesn't tell you why she did it. And then the other three heroes are just like different versions of a douchey character. Like, there's the womanizer, the socially like obtuse intelligent person, and then there's one that's just like uncaring. Yeah, I think, can't remember. Exactly, because they were like that irrelevant to the story. And yeah, that's it for that. Like I said, the best part, all of it was good, but characters, specifically Naofumi, was rather interesting. So world building is pretty good. Uh, it's actually a focus of the story instead of like a lot of light novels where it's just kind of like, yeah, it's an RPG world. RPG stuff happens, and then that's kind of it. It felt kind of like Log Horizon or Infinite Dendrogram, where they take the time to explain the world and how it works and stuff. There's a kind of a big focus on some sort of game elements, like specifically the leveling up thing, and which affects Naofumi's shield and therefore him, because it absorbs stuff. It works kind of like a vacuum, basically. Like they use it as a vacuum for a little bit. And he can absorb stuff. He can absorb stuff, and then make a shield out of it that gives him a different ability. And so a lot of the book is him figuring out what he can do with those abilities. And yeah, it's interesting. I really enjoyed the explanations behind the way that his shield works. That's basically what most of the world building focused on. I found the slave thing interesting as well because you know, humans are like he says it himself, if on Earth with minimal differences humans are able to enslave one another easily and experience racism, in a world where there's actual differences between people and other creatures or other intelligent beings, racism would be way more rampant and way more justified, I guess, because there are inherent differences, and because these like animal people are more like monsters than humans in the sense that they level up and grow depending on their levels, whereas humans I don't think actually have levels, where I can't remember. I think only the heroes do, and it's more like their shield than their person, but I wasn't clear on if humans have levels or not. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting. Yeah, that's basically it. The art is rather pretty. I really like it. Here, let me show you the colored pages. So here's the cover page. I like that. It feels very fairy tale-esque, very whimsical. I really like the way that the characters are color-coded. They all have some variation of a metal and then I guess a primary color and green, or well, it depends on how you look at it. But you know, the bow hero is yellow, the sword hero is blue, the spear hero is red, and the shield hero is green. And Raphtalia here is like red as well, a different kind of red. And then that's Miin. She's the woman that accused him of rape. She's like a different close up of her. I really like the coloring here, and I like the style. I think it's not exactly anime. It's not exactly the same as the anime, and it doesn't feel like manga art. It just feels like really nice stylized illustrations. There you go. That's a pretty heartwarming scene. I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, that's basically it. Like I said, the art is rather beautiful. It's sharp, I think. And I like that it's not crazy thick lining on it. The lining is pretty light. There's not very much. And yeah, and fan service in this text, or in this book, I don't think there's really any of it at all. I mean, I think there's a scene here where Raphtalia hugs Naofumi. If I remember correctly, in the manga, they make it seem rather racy, slightly fan servicey, but in this book, it's very much like she just hugged him to her chest, and that's that. But yeah, so I would rate this book a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10. which I understand is probably not something a lot of people would rate it. But given that this is one of the earlier books I read, and it's also rather enjoyable, I think it's a good score. If I read more and came back to this, I might score it lower. I don't know. I recommend it. I think anyone that likes medieval settings and enjoys, you know, some aspects of video games, like lore aspects of video games, would probably enjoy this book. It's rather similar to Log Horizon in that sense, although the story kind of diverges and goes in a different path. But yeah, thank you for watching, and like and subscribe, comment down below. Please let me know anything you think I should do in order to improve my content. And if you would subscribe, that'd be really helpful because I'm trying to reach 20 subscribers. And I would really appreciate it if you guys made it possible. And I have a new Twitter and an Instagram. If you guys would check it out. I haven't really figured out how to use Twitter that much yet because I'm not really a social media person. But on Instagram, I put TBRs on Sundays. And throughout the week, I post about what I'm reading. Well, I post when I finish reading a book, and then I do a brief summary about it. So if you want to see that type of content, please go to my Instagram and follow me. And try to do it with my Twitter as well. And I start uploading stuff on there or posting stuff on there more often. And yeah, thanks again. See you guys later.